Hello and welcome back. We've heard so much about the occult, but how many of us actually believe in it? Today, we'll take a deep dive into the life of Richard Ramirez, one of America's most notorious serial killers. A man who spread terror and chaos into the hearts and minds of the residents of California, while also spreading the word about Satan. Buckle up, this is one for the books. Get ready to be terrified. This is the true story of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your host, Greenman, and this is the Murder Encyclopedia. Before he became the Night Stalker who went about hacking up bodies, Richard Ramirez was just a boy. Born on February 29, 1960 in El Paso, Texas, to Mexican immigrants Julian and Mercedes Ramirez. He was the youngest of 5 children and had a troubled childhood. He suffered terrible abuse at the hands of his alcoholic father, who assaulted him, giving him head injuries and pushing him into epileptic seizures. While growing up, he became very fond of his older cousin, a Vietnam War veteran, Mike Ramirez, who, unknown to the authorities, had become not only a serial killer, but a serial rapist. He witnessed his cousin shoot his wife in the head during an argument at the young age of 13 years. His cousin would show him graphic photos of the woman he had raped, killed, and decapitated during the war in Vietnam. And this early exposure to extreme cruelty would one day influence Ramirez's future violence and sexual fantasies. He would state in one of his interviews that those images only fascinated and motivated him. Mike later got sent to a mental hospital by the government after they ruled the killing of his wife was a result of his insanity, attributing it to the post-traumatic stress disorder from serving in Vietnam. This made Ramirez a complete recluse. It was during this period that he would start taking drugs and develop a keen interest in Satanism and the occult. He committed petty crimes and soon dropped out of high school and moved to San Francisco, one of the largest cities in America, and one that would become awfully terrified of him for years to come. Ramirez's first known murder occurred on April 10, 1984, when he cornered and stabbed 9-year-old Mei Leung in the basement of his apartment building in San Francisco. She and her brother were out looking for a lost dollar when Ramirez saw this as an opportunity to carry out his sadistic thoughts. He asked her to follow him into his basement where he could help her find her lost money, and when they got there, he overpowered the little girl and beat her repeatedly. Then he proceeded to strangle her with her own dress before using a switchblade to slash her throat so deeply that she was nearly decapitated, and then he hung her body from a pipe using her dress. This murder raised a lot of heads in the Tenderloin district as parents became very cautious with their young daughters. However, this crime was not connected to Ramirez until 2009 when his DNA was matched to the crime scene. His second murder happened on June 28, 1984 in Glossal Park, Los Angeles, when he managed to break into the house of 79-year-old Jenny Venkow at around midnight and attacked her while she slept. She tried to struggle against him, but he eventually overpowered her, using a knife to stab her repeatedly in the head, neck, and chest. He then proceeded to sleep with her dead body, and after that, he ransacked the house, taking every valuable thing he could find. He was so good at doing this that he was careful not to leave any fingerprints that could lead the cops back to him. It was only later that Jenny's body was found, completely hacked up on her bed with several stab wounds to her head and chest, and her throat deeply slashed with what seemed like a knife, almost decapitating her head. He attacked 20-year-old Maria Hernandez outside her home with a handgun, but she was lucky as the bullet ricocheted off her car keys, which she raised in time to protect herself. Miss Hernandez played dead all the while as he broke into her house where he shot her roommate, Dale Okazaki, in the forehead, killing her instantly. He fled the scene, but later that night he came into another neighborhood and attacked another woman, Tsai Lian Yu, before shooting her in the head with his shotgun in Monterey Park. These initial series of events earned him the moniker, the Valley Intruder. Ramirez continued his killing spree over the next year, targeting mostly elderly or vulnerable people in their homes at night. He used a variety of weapons such as handguns, knives, a machete, a tire iron, and a hammer. He also sexually assaulted many of his victims, both male and female, and often mutilated their bodies or left satanic symbols or messages at the crime scenes. He sometimes forced his victims to swear to Satan or to say that they loved him. He also stole valuables from his victims' homes to support his drug habit. On March 27, 1985, Ramirez managed to break into the home that he had looted a year earlier just outside of Whittier in California. He killed the sleeping 64-year-old Vincent Zazzara, shooting him square in the head with his handgun. Zazzara's wife, Maxine Zazzara, heard the gunshot and got up immediately, and Ramirez attacked her, beating her up and binding her hand. As he ransacked the room for valuables to steal, Maxine managed to cut loose from the bonds that held her and retrieved a shotgun from under the bed, which she was unaware had no bullets in it. She pulled the trigger just after he turned around and saw her. Ramirez then shot her 3 times, killing her, then used a large carving knife to mutilate her body. He carved an inverted cross into her chest, then removed her eyes with the knife and placed them in a jewelry box which he kept as a souvenir. He also tried to have sex with her body, but he couldn't do it, as he would state later in an interview that he found himself too shaken up by her attempt to shoot him that he could not muster up an erection. Ramirez was so sick in the head that he would go around sleeping with the dead bodies of his victims and taking certain body parts of theirs home with him as some sort of prize. On May 29, 1985, Ramirez would drive a stolen car to Monrovia, where he broke into the home of Mabel Bell and her sister Florence Lang. He bludgeoned them with a hammer and shocked them with an electrical cord. He also used lipstick to draw a pentagram, a symbol known popularly for being associated with the occult, on Mabel's thighs and the walls of their bedroom. Both women managed to survive the attack, but they remained comatose until their deaths. No one would be able to face such horrific acts and live to tell the story. Ramirez acted like he was part of the night, being able to drift in and out without being caught by anybody. For a long period during his reign of terror, the police would have problems trying to get any tangible evidence on who he was, as the only source of information they had concerning these murders was the footprints from a pair of Avia sneakers that always found a way to appear at the scene of each crime. Ramirez's crimes caused widespread fear and panic in the Los Angeles area, and people started buying guns and installing security systems in their homes. The police formed a special task force to catch the Night Stalker, as he was dubbed by the media and locals. They collected fingerprints, ballistics, and DNA evidence from the crime scenes, but they had no solid leads or suspects. Ramirez also changed his appearance and modus operandi frequently, making it harder for the police to identify him. On August 18, 1985, Ramirez decided to move to the San Francisco Bay Area in a bid to throw the Los Angeles police off his scent, and there he would kill 66-year-old Peter in his home in Lake Merced. He also raped and shot his wife Barbara, who survived. As he raped and choked her, he forced her to admit to Satan being her savior. When he was done, he left a message on the wall with lipstick that read, "Jack the Knife," and drew a pentagram. The San Francisco police linked this crime to the Night Stalker and announced it to the public, which angered the Los Angeles police, who wanted to keep it a secret. Ramirez got rid of his sneakers, as they were the only solid lead they had of him, and returned to Los Angeles, where he attempted to kill 3 more people. Ramirez's downfall came on August 30th, 1985, when his fingerprint was finally identified by a computer system that had recently been installed by the police. His name and photo were released to the media and broadcast on television and radio. Ramirez was unaware of this, as he took a bus to Tucson, Arizona to visit his brother. He returned to Los Angeles on August 31st, 1985, and walked into a convenience store. There, he noticed that his face was on the front page of every newspaper and that people were staring at him. He ran out of the store and tried to steal a car, but he was recognized by a woman who screamed for help. A group of bystanders chased him and beat him until the police arrived, and after years of raining pain on the people of Los Angeles and San Francisco, the reign of the Night Stalker had come to an end as he finally got apprehended. Ramirez's trial began in January 1989 and lasted for 4 months. He was charged with 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 counts of sexual assault, and 14 counts of burglary. He pleaded not guilty and claimed that he was possessed by Satan, which he reveled in. He also showed no remorse for his crimes and often smiled or laughed in court. He drew a pentagram on his palm and shouted "Hail Satan" during one of the sessions. Many jail employees would sometimes hear him brag to his fellow inmates about committing more than 20 murders, though the number of murders that have been investigated and linked to him were about 16 deaths. During his time in jail, he had many fans who would write him and come visit him in jail. One of them was Doreen Leoy, a freelance magazine editor who married him in 1996. On September 20th, 1989, Ramirez was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death by the gas chamber. His words after hearing his verdict were, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." The man lacked any sign of remorse for his crimes, and it only went to show how dark and troubled his mind became as he grew older. He was sent to San Quentin State Prison to await his execution. However, he never faced his punishment as he died of complications from B-cell lymphoma on June 7, 2013 at the age of 53. By that time, he had been on death row for more than 23 years. What are your thoughts on Richard Ramirez? Do you believe his actions were a result of the trauma he suffered during his childhood, or were there other reasons? Leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed watching, please like, share, and subscribe for more content, because there's a lot more where this came from, here at the Murder Encyclopedia.